Hello, ladies. I am Ivy Felicia, the body relationship coach, and I'm the founder of Fat Women of Color. And I'm excited that you're watching this because this launch I'm so excited about it. It's like one of the most amazing things that's going on right now because we're bringing together women of color who identify as fat in a space where we can all support each other. And get the support that we need as well. One of the things that I wanted to do to help create this space of healing and support and learning and sharing is to talk to some women who are willing to share their stories with us, women who some of you may or may not know or have seen in the media, who have gone through their own journeys of being fat women of color. And a lot of them are doing really amazing, phenomenal, pivotal things that are changing our history and our course as fat women of color. So the first woman that I have today to speak with is Latoya. Latoya Snell. Hi, Latoya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for being here and for agreeing to be a part of this.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting to get a chance to talk to you. I personally have watched you in the media, and you've submitted your pictures to the Fat Women of Color Instagram account. So we've had pictures of you way before this part even took off.
Exactly.
You've been a part of our community. So we feel like you're already part of the family, and everybody else is just now getting to get even more a taste of who you are. So for those ladies who may not have seen you on our Instagram feed or in our community, or maybe haven't seen you in the media, can you just introduce yourself to us and just tell us a little bit about you and who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So my name is Latoya Shauntay Snell. I am a freelance chef and photographer. I basically work alongside my husband for Snell Design, but as a freelance chef and now I guess as a contributing writer, I've been pretty much journaling my fitness journey. Yeah, I want to say my fitness journey, but it's turning more into an open dialogue and an open diary, a very transparent diary on this platform called runningfatchef.com. And I came up with this idea sometime, I want to say it's close to 2 years now. It's about 17 months and counting that has been running. And basically, it came about because in 2013, I reached this point where I hit rock bottom. I was over 265 pounds. I'm 5'3.5". We have to throw in the half because, short people like to feel tall too. And, it got to a point where I woke up and I realized that I was in this hole, this figurative hole where I just couldn't dig myself out. And I think that's the point of, when you hit that rock bottom, you can either choose to stay there or you can choose to elevate yourself. So I started documenting the journey of, originally what was just going to be like a fitness journey. I was like, okay, I'm going to lose this weight. I'm going to transform into this new person. Bam. And, I'm going to reinvent myself. And what it did instead is in 2013 to 2014, I lost an abundance of weight in that 1 year. I lost close to 100 pounds. And I reached about 10 pounds away from goal weight and completely realized that mentally it didn't catch up. It didn't catch up because of the visual and most importantly, the mental. I realized that my happiness it didn't really coincide with this number. Realistically, it came along with the experiences that I want to say that, and I tell this almost like every platform, that the weight loss or the weight loss journey itself was really this gateway drug to helping me find out who I was. And I realized that the happiness did not come from that weight loss per se. It came from the adventures that I gave myself permission to do. We're restricted as women of color. We're restricted as fat women of color. Just overall, we're told all these things that we're not supposed to do. And I wanted to give myself an opportunity to explore these things, not just only as a woman who's been told to shut up on several instances, but as a woman who didn't embrace some of these things as a child. So I taught, I learned how to ride a bike. I gained my interest in running, and I started talking about these things through platforms like Instagram and Facebook and Tumblr. And next thing I knew, I had a following, and I was like, okay, I wasn't trying to be, inspiring. I was actually very scared of it, which is something that I'm realizing now is very common, where a lot of people of color, it's like, we don't, sometimes maybe we're not as blunt as I am with admitting to it, that we kind of are afraid of our own success. And I wasn't silent about it. I was like, okay, I was not aspiring to be anybody's role model. I was not aspiring to be this word inspirational to anyone. I was just selfishly doing this for myself. And I realized that everything that I've done in my lifetime, especially as an adult, in social work, everything has been screaming for me to kind of give back. And I just didn't want to put that label on it. And next thing I knew, I found myself here. Every time I just kept telling myself these lies. I'm like, oh, well, one platform put me on here. They'll forget about me in 6 months, because it's almost like this self-defeatist attitude that I had about my own success, of how people saw me, because I was conditioned to believe that, as quick as you rise, there's going to always be somebody else that's going to take it away from me. And you realize that, and at least in my case, I realized that this was more than just this weight loss journey. It metamorphed itself went from being a weight loss journey to being a fitness journey to being a mental health journey, to basically giving other, I'm not the first who've done it, but giving other Black people, other people of color, permission to just do whatever the hell that you like without, seeking outsiders' opinions of what they think of you, and just being happy in your own skin, especially since we kind of look at the word fat as if it's some type of curse word. It's not.
Yeah. And I read in your story, well, first of all, thank you for sharing. I read in your story that you did, after going through the journey through weight loss, that you did gain some of the weight back. So what was that experience like for you?
Oh, man. I must have received so much feedback on it. When I lost, it's very strange. I didn't gain the weight until I became an adult. And a lot of the weight came about for different reasons. I've miscarried several times. I stopped counting, to be very transparent. I stopped counting. I was fairly recently diagnosed with endometriosis. And, as a kid, I just thought that periods were supposed to be painful. And I just assumed that was just the way it was. And when I gained all the weight, it was like I was getting all this feedback. I realized that some of the people I kept in my circle was really toxic, because they would give me advice like, oh, you should really lose the weight because you looked so much better when you were smaller. And then I attempted that in 2013, and I was successful at it in 2013 to 2014. And once I reached this, I reached like 160 pounds. Like my goal weight was like 150. I reached 160 pounds, and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I absolutely hate who's looking back at me. Everybody's not meant to be skinny, at one point I was happy with, being like a size 4 or 6 or whatever, and everybody's, shape and size is going to look different. It's going to, these are the things that, we are now talking about. But 10, 20, 30 years ago, as fashion changed, the standards have changed of what's skinny, what's not. At one point, someone being a size 8 to 10 was technically that was skinny. But as soon as we talk about, and it's funny, coincidentally, I'm a photographer outside of this. When you follow fashion trends of the 40s until it hits like the Marilyn Monroe stages of the 60s and 70s, you realize how much of a metamorphosis it actually took in fashion, and how people conditions themselves to believe that the only way that you're skinny is you have to be this certain type, and you have to be this type of frame and you have to have this long neck, and someone like me don't really have that,
Right.
So when I actually reached this point, I was just like, oh my God, like I don't like my reflection. And I can genuinely say that I still have more good days where I'm able to look at my reflection as a fat woman of color now versus when I had lost the weight and I was like, oh my God, I do not like this.
Wow. So why do
So
you think that was? Like, not to interrupt you, but why do you
oh,
think you feel more comfortable in this body than the other one?
I started learning how to listen to myself.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. I think that we get so caught up on everyone else's opinions
Yeah.
of what we're supposed to look like. I've had it from, and I think it's not like I had it just so much from strangers. It was like I was getting this from friends and family, and sometimes the people that love you can hurt you the worst.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, you should really lose some weight. This is and this, and then I lose the weight, and oh my God, you should really eat something. Are you starving yourself? Are you on drugs? Is something wrong? Are you stressed? And I'm like, it's to a point where I sat down one day and I said, when am I going to start listening to me?
Yeah.
And that's what it really ultimately came down to. And I was like, you know what? I started looking through my pictures. I started comparing my pictures to the happy points or the down points in my life. And I'm like, on the outside, to a lot of people, they looked at it as, oh, you lost weight, so that means that you're happier. No, I was happy with the adventures that I took on as I was losing weight. And then I realized I can still do this plus size. I can still do this and I can still be plus size and be healthy. I had to reprogram my way of thinking just for me to embrace the person that I was becoming, who I was
Yeah.
destined to become, and who I am now.
Yeah. I definitely like one thing that keeps I guess coming up for me and resonating with me is you talked about it earlier and then you just mentioned it again, is that you gave yourself permission to enjoy these adventures that oftentimes as fat women of color or women who are fat and larger bodies, a lot of times we think that there's this small box of things that we can enjoy and we exclude
Mm-hmm.
ourselves from so many things in life. I know that even working with women, coaching women, myself, I hear women say all the time, oh, when I lose the weight, then, I
Yes.
will find love, I'll travel, I'll ski, I'll horseback ride, I'll whatever, I'll scuba dive, I'll finally wear a bikini, I'll finally wear a bathing suit. Whatever the things are, we have this like list of these are the things I will do when I lose the weight. And ironically, I've been that woman too. Like before I got into the space of body acceptance, I had an actual list of when I lose the weight, I will. And I had a list because someone told me, oh, make that list and that will motivate you to lose the weight. That will get you excited about losing the
Yeah.
weight. So hearing you say that, it's like a light bulb sometimes for us as women to realize, what are we holding back, from, why are we holding ourselves back from life? And it sounds like once you actually stopped holding yourself back, that's really what you were enjoying. And we
Yes.
equate that with skinniness or weight loss,
Mhm.
but it's not that. It's just living and thriving that we really enjoy.
I can't agree more. It's very interesting. That same list is something I created. Oh gosh, I've ran across things in my house. I've ran across old notebooks. That's what I like. That's the one thing that hasn't changed about me over the years. I
Yeah.
used to like scribe things everywhere on notepads. On oh gosh, like I got a I got an envelope that has. Sorry, I'm like recovering from a cold. I have envelopes that I would scribe things on, and I would have this bucket list of things that I wanted to accomplish by a certain time at a certain date, and it was always in correlation with how I looked and how I felt at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And it was just like all these things I knew. I mean, the only thing I knew on my list that I went against before taking on this journey of changing my entire life, and finding my happy in a sense, was I went against the norms of I can find love while being fat.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I, we started dating in high school, and he met me when I was, oh gosh, and I had so much self-esteem issues then. And, those are things that when I think in hindsight, I'm like, a lot of this stuff was with me when I was skinny, and a lot of this stuff transferred over with me when I was fat, and I scapegoat a lot of my issues on being fat.
Yeah.
And realistically, that wasn't the case. This was something that was with me from youth.
Yeah.
I can remember when I was younger, and I would have girls that would tease me from everything from my original hair color. My original hair color is like light brown and dark brown. And, I have spots in my face, and they're like, oh, she's trying to be white. And it didn't help that I articulated myself in a certain way, or my T's didn't come out the way they were supposed to. Oh, so she must have a lisp, and it was just like these little things that we attack each other on. And it starts to build and shape who we are as people. And then when we add on, we compound things like weight gain onto that, we start to say, that's the reason why. And realistically, that's not. These
that's
are things.
Powerful.
It's very real, and this reason why I think that we have to start these things from young, telling, boys and girls across whatever background that you are beautiful the way that you are. And not thinking that you have to look a certain way, that you have to live a certain way to attain this level of happiness. I don't want to wake up and be 70 and say, I still have this ongoing list of things that I wish that I did that I just didn't do. And now my excuse is I'm old.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's powerful. Like, just thinking when you mention the fact that we scapegoat our fatness, it's like our reasons for this is why this isn't right, or this is why that isn't right, or this is why I'm not happy, or this is why, and not trivializing fatness, because of course experiencing the world in a fat body comes with a certain level of body shaming and bullying and all of that. Of course, yes, absolutely. But a lot of things we do scapegoat on fatness, that it might not actually be the fatness. It's actually it's other things. But like you said, we're blaming it on the fatness. So you gave yourself permission to live and thrive and be adventurous, which now you absolutely are. So, like, can you share with us, how did you go from being a chef to being this runner and this athlete who's won over 60 medals, and you've done all these races, and of course now you're starting to gain even more momentum in social media for a lot of things. But how did you go from the chef to the athlete?
Oh man, that came about the point of rock bottom. So a week before Hurricane Sandy, that had to be 2011. I went to work one day. I finally, I think that I was starting to get into this process, into my metamorphosis, before I gave myself permission to. And you get to a point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You've heard the saying over and over again. I lost I want to say years before it, I was a social worker. And then before that, I used to get permission from everyone else on what I was supposed to do with my life. As much as I love my mom, like most parents, we want the best for our kids. So she's like, get a job in civil service, you get something safe. If you're not going to do something safe, you have to do accounting, or you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor, you have to be better than me. While my dad was actually whispering something else different. He's like, find your happiness. Don't ask for permission. He's like, as men, we don't ask for permission to do certain things. Women are apologetic. And you have to, he's like, I'm not telling you to be a boy, but he's like, you can adopt some of the things that men do. And this is a man that was, much as he gave me great advice, this was a man that was screwing up in his own life. And I love him dearly. He's been gone for 9 years. But I learned from his mistakes, and I learned from his hypocrisy of how he can do as he say and not as he do. I saw the things that he did that was brilliant, and I tried to take that into myself. And anytime that I would open up with people would, now they don't so much say that. They kind of like the fact that I speak up for myself. But when I would speak up for myself and say things like, well, I really want to do this. No, you shouldn't do cooking, because cooking, that's for people who just came out of jail, and you have a brain and you're articulate. And I'm like, what? So I was choosing these careers, and I dabbled into social work. I dabbled into working for the Department of Corrections. I worked in all these different places that, as much as I saw a part of me there, my heart wasn't in it. and
Yeah.
I've been looking for it. So culinary came about because social media. I put up a picture of food I made in the house, and my husband took a picture. And I had friends who were fortunate enough to say, "Hey, you know what? I believe in your dream. Go to culinary school."
Mhm.
Thought this was going to be the highlight of my life. I get into culinary school, I graduate, I do the speech. I'm like, yeah, great. Got an opportunity to work alongside another prominent chef in the industry, Chef El
Yeah.
Simone.
Mhm.
Worked on her food set. I was like, all right, great. Working at Restaurant Associates. Went to work one day. I bent over and I couldn't get back up. Then I thought it was going to be a week off. It turned out to be a year and a half
Wow.
of being on bed rest and going to physical therapy, getting acupuncture, and you have a doctor that's telling you, hey, you're fat.
Yeah.
And this is part of your problems. You need to lose some weight. You need to go on Weight Watchers because you have sciatica, you have disc degeneration, you have herniated disc. And let me name down all of these health issues that you have, and it is most likely because you're fat. And I'm like, great. Here's another thing to add to my dwindling self-esteem.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it took for me to lose it all to gain everything. Because at
Yeah.
that point, once you lost almost everything, there's no way but up from there.
Yeah.
So I found myself saying, okay, let me try out this workout. Because that's what physical therapy essentially is. It's like having a babysitter on standby.
Right.
Making sure that you're doing these things right. And I'm like, okay, this guy got me going on the treadmill. I can't run. I don't run for anything other than the ice cream truck. I was really like, my state of mind then was so shot that it really, I think the losing, well, not even so much the losing weight, the idea of going out there and actually trying something
Yeah.
um, was a process in itself, because I had to convince myself. I don't care how many people out there told me, you're capable of doing this. I always had it in my brain, when I'm ready is when I'm ready.
Yeah.
It started off with learning how to ride a bike. I knew I wanted to do that for the longest, but I had this fear. And
But you
fear,
didn't know before then how to ride a bike?
I didn't know how to ride a bike.
Okay.
I didn't know how to ride a bike. I don't. That's the reason why I really look at all these adventures as
Yeah.
my gateway of getting my childhood back. Like the thing that people joke about in the African American community about, Michael Jackson pretty much living out his childhood as an adult.
Yeah.
I kind of can relate to that.
Okay.
I couldn't do jump double dutch. I couldn't, I didn't run on the track. I wasn't, the most athletic type. The only thing that I did was watch boxing. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, I'm like, I would love to learn how to ride a bike. And I kept saying, this is going to be the way that I can lose weight.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I have this friend who is like this badass cyclist. Like, I know she's been on your page. Her name is Christina Fowl.
Yeah.
And she's like, girl, you can go out there now. She is not the stereotypical, I'm lean,
Yeah.
I have to look this way, but her legs are dynamic.
Hmm.
And originally she was going to be the person that was going to teach me how to ride a bike.
Okay.
So I know our schedules didn't line up or whatever. My husband ended up teaching me how to ride a bike in my neighborhood park. The kids are making fun of me. I went from learning how to ride a bike, and I said, all right, I'm just going to use this as a weight loss tool, to signing up for a century, because that's how my brain works. I
Yeah.
told myself that if I put money on it, then I'll do it. So I was tapping into my inner cheapskate to motivate me. And I was like, all right, cool. This is off the bucket list. What else can I try now? Oh, let's jump out of an airplane. Everybody's telling me
I
that
saw
you know,
that picture
oh yeah, it's
on your website. I was like, okay, she's still an adventure. Like, what?
yeah, I was just like, okay. I was like, I really want to, jump out of an airplane. And now the screwed up part is that a lot of people don't realize, to be eligible to jump out of a plane, you have to hit a certain weight criteria.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And anything over, like with some of the schools, and that's what they told me with some of the schools told me that if I was over 200 pounds, they would charge me by the pound.
Wow.
And it is insulting as hell. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing tandem skydiving, like you can't go around these things. But
Right.
I was just like, wow, I'm gonna be too fat to jump out of a plane.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scarring, and you realize that there's a long list of history with that. when it comes down to sports itself.
Yeah.
Women weren't allowed to run.
Yeah.
You know, and now in other countries, you know, you think that in 20, you know, what we're in 2018, you think that this is something that's, oh, that's something of the past. No, there's certain countries that will pretty much will stone a woman to death
Yeah.
for even contemplating doing some of the things that I do, that the things that I have the freedom to do, and all I get is backlash.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll take it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll take backlash over, you know, getting murdered for, you know, for doing what I love to do. I just started using one event to motivate me to do the next crazy event, to do the next crazy event. And I had to find a way to tune out everybody else's opinions
Yeah.
out of this, you know, out of these scenarios, because I had people that told me, Black people don't do this, and you're a Black woman, and you're a fat Black woman. You don't do things like that. You're trying to perpetuate white culture. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, who defines these things? I'm not trying to blend in with white people. I'm trying to find my happy. And that's what I keep repeating over and over again. I'm like, this is me, you know, figuratively, just keep swimming. You know, what makes me happy? And adventure makes me happy. I was told Black people don't hike. The person that took me on my first hike was Myrna Valerio. And that was what, last year?
Yeah.
I couldn't find anyone that was willing to take on these adventures. So I had to teach myself early on to be my best cheerleader, be my best cheerleading squad. I had to speak positively to myself. And you really have to tune people out at times, because most times people are projecting their own fears onto you.
Absolutely. And there are stereotypes, stereotypical, like you said, people assume, oh, women don't do this, and then Black people don't do that, and fat people don't do that.
Fat people don't do that.
When you make a list, make a list of like the things that Black people, women, and fat people don't do. If you're a fat woman of color, the only thing you're supposed to do is sit your ass in a chair and eat donuts. I don't know.
No, but you can't do that either. But you can't do that, because then if you sit down in the chair and you eat donuts, and you perpetuating the stereotype, and they'll tell you to lose weight, and then when you try to lose weight, like me going to the gym, they'll look at me every time, and I get the weird stares, you know, like, oh my God, you know, there's a fat girl over there that's, you know, she's deadlifting. Oh, let me go over there and tell her not to do that, because she's gonna, you know, I know her goal has to be weight loss.
Right.
Oh, she's going to injure herself. Let me go over there and suggest that, you know, she needs a personal trainer. Oh, wait, she's doing clapping push-ups? There's no way. So let me look at her like she's a circus act. You know, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. When I get heckled, I get trolled a lot. Like, even up until yesterday, I'm literally on a 48-hour hold just to block a guy on my account. And the sad part is, this is a Black man that has been trolling me for the last 18 months. And it's to a point where I've actually contemplated putting in, you know, some type of police report against it. Where we're told so many things, like, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. When do you give yourself permission to start listening to yourself, you know, instead of society? Because 3, 4, 5 years ago, I was told I was crazy for even contemplating doing a half marathon. I did that. And then people went on the bandwagon and was like, oh yeah, I was there to support you the entire time. Then all of a sudden I said I was going to do a marathon. Oh, why are you doing a marathon? Do you know how much you weigh? Like, you know, do you know, then, you know, it's bad for your knees. That's what my hecklers like to tell me. It's bad for your knees. And they'll give me a whole bunch of BMI facts about, you know, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and you should lose the weight. Well, how am I going to, if I'm following your theory, how do I lose the weight by sitting down? So even if I was doing this to lose weight, you're still telling me to sit my fat ass down. I ask people to look at someone who's plus size or fat or whatever term that they feel comfortable with, and you look at someone like me, and what's the first thing that comes to mind? And really be honest about it. And, you know, if you want honesty, ask kids. Kids will tell you every time. I've had kids that told me, like, you know, I've always heard that fat people are lazy, or, you know, they're sloppy, or they're messy, or, you know, and it's like, you have to ask yourself why. Why is that the correlation to fat people? You have not taken consideration that no, not all of us are sick. Not all of us have a list of ailments.
Yeah.
It could be for personal reasons. Maybe we're happy. Maybe we're fat and fit. I'm one of those people. I'm fat and fit. Maybe it is a health issue. Maybe there's a thyroid issue. Maybe there's in my case with the endometriosis, with half of my issues, it was like I was 3 times as hard
Yeah.
just to lose the weight because of
Yeah.
all the things against me. But if
Yeah.
I was in this right now, 5 years in, to lose the weight, I probably wouldn't be doing half of these adventures. Probably would have gave up. Um,
Yeah.
I, this whole being skinny to be happy, and the magazines and these platforms don't help it.
Yeah.
They really don't help the stereotype, and they don't help the narrative, because they've been conditioned to tell us this crap for 30, 40 years of, yeah, if you're skinny, you're fit. And that's BS. There are
Right.
plenty of skinny people out there who are very, very sick. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. So how do we create, because like in listening to what you're saying, you know, as fat women of color, you know, we're heckled or we're bullied for our size and for our race and for being women. So how do we create a new narrative? How do we change the narrative? Like, I know part of you, what you're doing is just like living your life, going out there. It, like you said, you didn't start out with the intention of, oh, let me be inspirational or let me be a hero, but let me just live my life. How do we change the narrative, not necessarily for the others, but for ourselves, meaning within our own community as fat women of color? How do we support each other in getting over these assumptions, these stereotypes, and changing this narrative for ourselves?
We have to stop, we have to stop talking ill about ourselves and
Yeah.
about others. Because I can, and I know maybe I'm going to piss off a few people with saying this. I can say that a third of my negative feedback comes from somebody that is my size,
Yeah.
that comes in my size, and we might share the same race.
Yeah.
Where I get something like, "Oh, you're fat," I don't know if you allow cursing on here, but you're fat
Yeah.
B,
Mm-hmm.
or you shouldn't be doing that, girl. If I was you, I'd just sit down with a sandwich and just give it up. I had a guy, I call him my favorite heckler. He told me the only way that I finished off, and it's terrible, I'm laughing at this. He told me the only way that I finished off the ultra marathon if there was ho-hos and Twinkies scattered throughout the course.
Oh,
And when
wow.
I saw what he looked like, because I ended up checking out his IP address, and I'm like, this guy is like at least 300 pounds.
Mm.
And this is a black man. And
Like
it burned.
self-hate.
And
It's self-hate, sort of being casted onto.
we we have to fix ourselves. We cannot help others if we cannot fix ourselves. You have to follow the instructions of an airplane. The airplane instructions they give you in a case of emergency. Put the mask on yourself before you try to save others. So if
Yeah.
you're going to go out there and you're going to sit here and try to be this superhero for others, sometimes we have to learn how to lead by example. That means we fix ourselves. We do what's best for ourselves, not look for permission from others. Granted, there's exceptions to the rule. Okay, your doctor says you can't do this and this. All right, cool. What can you do
Mm-hmm.
outside of this? They gave you a list of do's and don'ts. Now check off the things that you can do. Lead by example, and you'd be surprised of how this works with the youth, because they're watching you. Even when you think that they're not watching you, they are always watching you. So, and I apologize for my throat, but I think that we should start speaking positively to ourselves, to a point where even if it means that we write down corny affirmations every morning, because I am one that do it. On my worst days, I have a Post-it note by me at all times with a marker or a pen, and I write down 3 good things about myself. And I'm like, you know what? I am not allowing myself to put down one negative characteristic or flaw that comes up and comes into mind. And I have to repeat that affirmation even if I don't believe it that day. If
Yeah.
you make it a process and you make it a habit, at some point you wake up in the morning and you really believe it. And you're like, you know what? I'm not ugly. My nose
Yeah.
is not too big. My stomach is enough. These marks on my stomach these stretch marks came from something. It came from
Yeah.
something beautiful. I birthed my child.
Yeah.
I attempted to have several children, and I lost a lot. And my son is here. He's 10 years old. That's my tattoo.
Yeah.
These are not stretch marks. These are tattoos, honey.
Yeah.
And I earned those. These are not ones I can get inside of a parlor where I can pay somebody $300, $400 for. These are
Yeah.
something that I got because I brought life here.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we have to learn how to tell ourselves. Turn off the damn television. So take away these. If you remove certain things from your life, you'll realize how much you are forcing yourself to tell yourself a different narrative.
Yeah.
If we keep the negativity around us, then that's all we'll see.
Right.
It's rare that you'll have somebody that's like, oh my God, I saw so much negative stuff that is inspiring me to do something positive. Like, most times, no, that's not the case. If all
You're
you
a
see,
product of your environment is pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, if you're told that you're ugly every day, even if you didn't start off believing it, you might start believing it at some point.
Yeah.
So change the narrative. You are the author of your own life. And
Yeah.
when you tell yourself that you are done writing your book, you will know it.
Yeah.
But if you haven't even started on the first page or have even a thought of how you're going to write this book, then you're kind of doomed,
Yeah.
before you even start it.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been awesome, and there's so many jewels in this. And ladies, if you're watching this, this is one of those things you might have to go back and listen to again, because there's so many nuggets and jewels that point to so many different things that we experience as fat women of color. One thing, I'm going to be selfish and say that stuck out for me is that you weren't always a runner, right? Like, I listening to your story, because
Yeah.
I'm looking at you and I've looked at your pictures, and then you run and you're this athlete and you're accomplishing all these goals and winning over 60 medals and all of that. But to hear you say that you were that person that said, I don't, because a lot of us, particularly as people of color, Black people, we will say, I don't run for anything except for away from fires.
Yes.
So to hear you say you were that woman and you weren't athletic and you didn't even ride a bike, and to see where you are now is phenomenal. So for me, I would say, kind of asking for myself and maybe other women who might be thinking the same thing, who are watching and listening to this right now, where do you start? Like, if you are that person who's been maybe a couch surfer, and maybe in the back of your head, you've been thinking, oh, I always wanted to do, whether it's or running or yoga or a triathlon or just a 5K, or you've always wanted to be have some type of athleticism, where do you start?
You learn how to embrace your crazy. And that is the God honest truth.
Yeah.
All these programs are going to tell you, especially with these Couch 5K programs, hey, well, we have week 1 through 6, and you have to do this and this. Okay, that's great that you have this manual that you pay $29.99 for, but it will collect dust like all of the Beachbody workouts, if you allow it. And really, that process starts mentally. I tell people, okay, before you decide that you want to go out there and buy the Couch to 5K program, go outside for a walk. You take on practical things that you are already doing, and let that serve as your motivation. Granted, these programs are great; they're designed or something, but you come up with smaller goals to attain this larger goal. And that's literally how I'm still doing that right now. Like right now, I'm trying to talk myself into 100K. And that is 62.
Your longest has been what? Your longest race?
My longest is a 60K, and that's equivalent to 37.2. Now, I am thinking about, embracing my level of crazy and taking on 100K, but these races cost a lot of money. So I'm like, hey, hello, sponsor, But when it comes down to attaining any goal, sometimes we need to see it.
Yeah.
or we need to be able to visualize it. And you're so caught up on looking at this end product that we're not acknowledging the things that we're already doing.
Mm.
For me, I realized that a mile was nothing but walking from my house to going to past 2 train stations in
Yeah.
Brooklyn, and I'm like, wow, that's a mile. I'm already doing that. You
Oh,
have to be able to give yourself that pat on the back to say,
yeah.
I've already been doing this. So all I'm doing is I'm changing the method.
Mm.
It really all goes back down to your mental health. It all goes down to how you're speaking to yourself. So the way that I started, realistically, I like I said, I use weight loss as my crutch. I use my cheapskate pockets as my crutch, and I was like, all right, if I put money onto it, I know that I'm going to complete this goal. You have to exploit your weaknesses.
Yeah.
You cannot just sit here and harp on about, because I mean, especially like I hear it a lot of people, and they're like, oh, you do yoga, so you must speak positively to yourself all the time. No, absolutely not. Like on my platform, I say the good, the bad, the ugly, and the absolute ridiculous without any type of apologies. Why? Because we have to acknowledge the positives and the negatives in order for us to be able to, one, not repeat the damaging things that's already been done, and
Yeah.
two, how can we change that negative into a positive? So if you're a person that's saying, oh my God, 5K is too much. Okay, cool. So your goal for the first week is not going to be, at the end of the week, I can run a half a mile. Your goal for the end of the week is, can I walk 1.5 miles?
Yeah.
Whether it means that you are slow the entire time, that's okay. Okay, well, maybe you didn't reach that goal at the end of the week. How much miles did you actually accomplish? Oh, so you accomplished a mile. Great. Put it down on the checklist. Acknowledge it. Stop dwelling on the fact that you did not hit this goal. Even I'm right now, I'm in the middle of an ultra marathon training, and I'm learning how to swim as I am actively pursuing a triathlon, which is absolutely crazy. But again, I tapped into my, I tapped into my, my inner demons of, oh my God, this triathlon cost me $200, so I have to do it. Find your weaknesses so you can exploit them, so you can have a basis to say, these are my list of excuses, and these are the excuses that I'm going to block. When it
Yeah.
comes to running, when it comes to swimming, when it comes to any of these things, hell, it can be as simple as, I don't do makeup. I'm a person, I didn't wear makeup. I
Yeah.
didn't learn how to put on makeup until last year,
Yeah.
when I started doing all these podcasts and going to events, and I'm like, oh, that makeup is kind of cute. But I was told for years by men, oh, I love a natural face. And any woman that's willing to do this type of modification and yada, 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 that means that she's fake. And I was like, but I still like it. And
Yeah.
I don't find that the people that I talk to are fake. So why am I not giving myself permission? And I looked at that as a negative. So I
Yeah.
acknowledged the negative and said, okay, how do I start off with the basics? My basics was putting on a basic lip gloss.
Yeah.
I graduated by looking at other people, find enablers,
Yeah.
find really good enablers who are already doing it, and just, pick their brain. If they're, sometimes some people don't write back. I tend to try to write back as many people as I can,
Yeah.
because I started, by picking other people's brains.
Yeah.
But even if they don't respond back, look at what they're doing and make it your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Screw the programs. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the programs are helpful, but if your mind is not convinced that you are ready to do it, you
Yeah.
won't. It
Yeah.
is the strongest tool. It is the thing that I exercise the most. I don't care how much these legs get me through 37, 40 miles. My
Mhm.
legs is not what get me through it. It is my heart and my mind and my tenacity and my stubbornness.
Wow. But that right there, I don't have anything else to say after that. that that wraps it up. So it's like, your excuses, get rid of them,
Yes.
stop limiting yourself mentally, and
Yes.
go ahead and set those goals, and then chunk down your goals into smaller goals, and do it.
Yeah.
Just do the damn thing. Like, that's
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
right?
I know, and I mean, and it sucks because I know some people are like, they're looking for like this, like, this secret that, like, oh my God, like, you have glowing skin. What do you do? And I'm like, hey, I just drink 8 glasses of water, like, and it's simple, because the problem is that most times these answers are already in front of us.
Yeah.
And we've already told ourselves these answers over and over again, but it's like we're looking for somebody special to
Mm,
say something that we already knew.
yeah.
And most of the times, like I can tell you, before starting this journey 5 years ago, most of these answers were sitting right here in front of me.
Yeah.
They were already written down on papers on my bucket list,
Yeah.
telling me what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just wasn't brave enough to
Yeah.
just see what would happen if I actually tried.
Yeah. So, ladies, thank you, Latoya, so much for sharing your story with us. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the ladies before we wrap up our session?
Girl, do your thing. I mean, men, women, naysayers, anybody, don't let them steal your joy. Don't let them steal your time, none of that. If you want to reach out to me, I am on runningfatchef.com. My email is basically the same thing as runningfatchef@gmail.com.
Mhm.
I'm on Instagram. I need to make all these things like the same. I'm on Instagram. I am Shauntay. I'm on Twitter. I have an open Facebook page. Like, I know, like, people are like, oh my God, you're crazy. You got your Facebook account open. I'm like, listen, nothing's private.
Yeah.
And I have a dedicated Running Fat Chef Facebook account there.
Okay.
I'm probably on who knows how many mediums, but if you ever see me at a race or in the street, just shout out my name, because I am from Brooklyn. So when I'm running, I do have a knife. So yeah.
So I'm going. All of those links are available right next to this video for everybody to connect with Latoya and to follow her and to cheer her on and to even possibly be inspired to go out and live your dream and to stop making excuses and to thrive. Whatever it is, even if it isn't athleticism, you can apply all of these principles to anything else that you're letting stop you from thriving in life as fat women of color. So, Latoya, thank you so much for being here, and thank you
Thank
for sharing your story with us. And I hope that this touches the women. Definitely leave comments, ladies, questions or anything like that, like that with the video, so that Latoya can see if she's touched you or see if she's inspired you as well. Thank you so much.